The space station called Harmony's Edge floated in the dark between stars. It was old, it was huge, and it was the only place in the galaxy where 1,000 different species could meet without killing each other. Treaties were signed here, wars were ended here. For 300 years it had been a place of peace. Today, that peace was about to break. Ambassador Yield of the People stood near the main viewing window and watched the ship approach. His 4 eyes blinked one after another, a sign of deep fear among his kind. The ship was black. It was shaped like a blade, and it carried the symbol that made every species in the galaxy feel cold. They had arrived. Yield turned and moved quickly through the corridors. Other aliens moved with him, all heading the same direction, away from the docking bay. A small creature with too many legs passed him, making sounds of panic. A tall being made of what looked like blue crystal pressed itself against the wall, trying to become invisible. Everyone knew about every child of every species grew up hearing stories. There were hunters. They had been hunters for 40,000 years. They did not farm. They did not build. They did not create. They only took. World after world had fallen to them. Species after species had become their slaves or their food, sometimes both. And now they were here. The docking bay doors opened, and they walked out. There were 12 of them. Each one stood 8 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in scales the color of black stone. They had 4 arms, and each arm ended in a hand with claws like curved knives. Their faces were flat and wide, with yellow eyes that never seemed to blink. When they breathed, their chest scales clicked together like armor. But it was the one in the front that made people look away. X the Unbroken walked like he owned everything he saw, and in a way he did. He was the leader of the war fleet. He had killed over 300 beings in personal combat. He had never lost. He had never shown mercy. He had never in his entire life lowered his head to another creature. He was the most dangerous being in the known galaxy, and he knew it. The delegation moved through the station like a disease. Other species cleared the corridors for them. Guards stepped aside. Even the automated doors seemed to open faster, as if the station itself was afraid. They entered the Grand Council chamber, and everything stopped. The chamber was a massive circular room where representatives from hundreds of species sat in rising rows of seats. At the center was a speaking platform. X walked to it without waiting for permission. His clawed feet clicked against the metal floor. The sound echoed in the sudden silence. He looked around at the gathered aliens. His mouth opened slightly, showing rows of teeth that were designed for tearing flesh. Among this expression meant amusement. It was the face they made before a kill. "We have come to make a demand," X said. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. "The require tribute. 3 species will be given to us. He pointed one clawed finger at representatives of each species as he named them. "They will serve us. Their worlds will feed us. This is not a request. This is what will happen." He paused and looked around again. "Or we will take what we want by force, and we will not stop with 3. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The ambassador, Yield, had closed all 4 of his eyes. The representative was shaking so badly that her translation device was making static sounds. The small creatures covered in soft fur were holding each other and crying without sound. The council leaders looked at each other. They looked at their guards. They looked at and saw death waiting. What could they do? They had never been defeated. Fighting them meant extinction. The mathematics of survival pointed to only one answer: sacrifice 3 species to save the rest. Then someone stood up. She was small, she was soft. She had no claws, no scales, no armor. Her hair was gray and black mixed together. Her skin showed lines of age around her eyes. She wore simple clothes, nothing fancy, nothing military. She looked like someone's grandmother. She was human. Her name was... "I would like to address the delegation," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. The chamber erupted in noise. Other ambassadors tried to pull her back. Translation devices crackled with warnings in 100 languages. Someone shouted that she had no authority. Someone else shouted that she would get everyone killed. Ignored all of them. She walked down the steps toward the speaking platform. Her footsteps were soft compared to the clicking of claws, but somehow people noticed them. Somehow, the chamber grew quiet again. X watched her approach. His yellow eyes studied her like she was a strange insect. He did not move. He did not speak. He simply waited to see what this tiny creature would do. Stopped 3 feet away from him. She had to tilt her head back to look at his face. The top of her head barely reached his chest. His shadow fell over her completely. Other humans in the chamber were frozen with fear. They knew what they did to those who challenged them. They knew this woman was about to die. Some of them closed their eyes. Some of them started recording, wanting to preserve her last moments. Did not bow. She did not shake. She did not look away from those terrible yellow eyes. "You want tribute," she said. "You want slaves. You want others to kneel." X leaned down slightly. This close she could smell him. He smelled like blood and metal and something old. "Yes," he said. "This is the way of things. The strong take, the weak give. This has always been true." Nodded slowly. "Then let me offer you something different." Behind her, the entire chamber held its breath. In front of her, X's mouth opened wider. More teeth showed, more amusement. "Speak, small thing," he said. "I will enjoy this before I kill you." Smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen terrible things and survived them. It was the smile of someone who had nothing left to fear. "I want to make a deal," she said. "A contest, just you and me. If you win, you get everything you asked for plus humanity as a bonus, all of us. Every human world, every human life. Yours." She paused. The silence was so complete that people could hear the station's air systems humming. "But if I win," continued, "you leave, all of you, forever, and you never threaten the conquered again." X stared at her. For the first time in longer than anyone could remember, the galaxy's mightiest predator did not know what to say. The silence in the Grand Council chamber lasted for 10 heartbeats. Then X began to laugh. It was not a pleasant sound. It was deep and grinding, like rocks being crushed. His 4 arms spread wide and his clawed fingers opened and closed. The other behind him joined in, their laughter filling the chamber like thunder. "You," X said when he finally stopped. "You wish to challenge me, a soft little thing with no claws, no fangs, no armor." He leaned down until his face was close to hers. His breath was hot and smelled of old meat. "I have killed warriors twice your size with my bare hands. I have torn apart creatures that could crush starships. What makes you think you could last even one moment against me?" Did not step back. "I am not asking you to fight fair," she said. "I am asking you to follow your own traditions." That made X pause. His yellow eyes narrowed. "You know of our ways?" he asked. "I know that they have something called the trial of dominance," said. "I know that any warrior can challenge any other, regardless of size or strength. And I know that once a challenge is accepted, the code of honor forbids refusing." Behind X, the other had stopped laughing. They were watching with new interest now. This human knew things. This human had prepared. X straightened to his full height. He was no longer amused. He was curious. "The trial of dominance is sacred," he said slowly. "It consists of 3 tests: strength, pain, will. Many have died in the first test alone. Those who survive rarely complete all 3. He tilted his head. "You would truly risk this. You would stake your entire species on a contest you cannot win." "Yes," said simply. "Why?" Looked around the chamber at the hundreds of different beings watching her. Some were crying. Some were praying to gods she did not know. Some were staring at her like she had lost her mind. "Because someone has to," she said. "Because if nobody stands up, you will just keep taking. Today it is 3 species. Tomorrow it will be 10. Next year it will be 100. Predators do not stop hunting until something stops them." She turned back to face X. "So here I am, stopping you." The leader was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "I accept your challenge," he said. "The trial of dominance will begin tomorrow. You will face 3 tests. If you survive them all, I will honor your request. If you fail," he smiled again, showing all his teeth, "then humanity joins the tribute and you die knowing your species will suffer because of you." "Agreed," said. The chamber exploded into chaos. Other human diplomats rushed toward her, grabbing her arms, shouting questions. How could she do this? Who gave her authority? Did she understand what she had done? The human government would not accept this. Earth would not accept this. Pulled away from them. "Earth is 3 months away by fastest ship," she said. "By the time they respond, this will be over, one way or another." A younger diplomat, a man named, stepped in front of her. His face was pale. "Doctor, you cannot do this. You are not a soldier. You are not a fighter. You are a retired field medic. You spent your career putting people back together, not tearing them apart." "Yes," said I, "did." "Then how do you expect to survive even the first test? This creature has killed hundreds. He has fought wars. He has—" Stopped, unable to find words big enough for what X was. Put her hand on his shoulder. Her grip was gentle but firm. "I know exactly what he is," she said quietly. "I have met monsters before. They come in all shapes and sizes, and I have learned something about them over the years." "What?" "They are not as strong as they think they are. They have just never met anyone stubborn enough to prove it." She walked away, leaving the chaos behind. That night sat in her small room on the station. It was nothing fancy. A bed, a desk, a window showing the stars. She pulled out an old photograph from her bag and looked at it for a long time. The photograph showed a young man in a military uniform. He was smiling. He had dark hair and kind eyes. On the back of the photograph, someone had written a name and a date. The date was 20 years ago. Touched the photograph gently. "I am sorry I could not save you," she whispered, "but maybe I can save them." She put the photograph away and began to prepare. The next morning, the entire station gathered to watch. The trial of dominance would be held in the main arena, a huge open space normally used for sports and ceremonies. Today, it would be used for something else entirely. Betting pools had opened throughout the station. The odds on survival were 1 in 10,000. Some beings bet on how long she would last. Most thought she would die in the first minute. A few generous ones gave her 5 minutes. Only the humans bet on her winning, and even they did not believe it. They bet on her because she was one of them, and that was what humans did. Walked into the arena wearing simple clothes. No armor, no weapons, nothing but her own body and whatever was inside her mind. She looked small in the huge space. She looked old. She looked tired. X walked in from the other side. He had removed his ceremonial robes. His black scales gleamed under the lights. His 4 arms flexed, and muscles moved under his skin like snakes. He looked like death given form. A priest stepped forward to explain the rules. His voice echoed through the arena. The trial of dominance consists of 3 tests. The first test is strength. The 2 challengers will fight until one cannot continue. No weapons, no assistance, only what nature gave you. Nodded, X clicked his claws together, making a sound like knives being sharpened. The second test is pain. Both challengers will endure the needle of truth, a device that causes suffering without damage. The one who endures longer proves their resistance to weakness. Nodded again. In the stands, a human doctor was quietly calculating how long a human nervous system could handle neural pain stimulation before shutting down. His numbers were not encouraging. The third test is will. Both challengers will enter the mind pool, a simulation of their deepest fears. The one who maintains their purpose proves their spirit is unbreakable. The priest stepped back. Let the trial begin. X rolled his shoulders and began walking toward. His steps were slow and deliberate. He was not in a hurry. He had killed enough times to know that anticipation was part of the pleasure. Stood still and watched him come. She did not take a fighting stance. She did not raise her hands. She simply waited. The gallery fell silent. Every being in the station was watching, either in person or through screens. History was about to happen. A human was about to die at the hands of the galaxy's greatest predator, and everyone would remember where they were when it happened. X stopped 3 feet away from. He looked down at her and saw no fear in her eyes. This confused him. Every creature feared him. It was natural. It was correct. But this small human looked at him like she was studying a patient, not facing a killer. "Any last words?" he asked. Smiled slightly. "Just one thought. You have spent your whole life being strong, but I wonder if you know what strength really is." X's smile faded. "I am going to enjoy teaching you." He moved. X moved faster than something his size should be able to move. His first strike was meant to end the fight immediately. One massive arm swung toward with enough force to crush metal. She was not there. Had stepped to the side at the last moment, not far, just enough. The clawed hand passed close enough to ruffle her hair. She kept moving, circling, staying just out of reach. X turned and struck again, and again. Each blow was powerful enough to kill. Each blow missed by inches, did not try to fight back. She did not try to block. She simply moved again and again like water flowing around stones. The crowd watched in confused silence. This was not what they expected. They expected the human to be torn apart instantly. Instead, she was still standing, still moving, still alive. Minutes passed. X's attacks became faster, more aggressive. He used all 4 arms now, striking from different angles. Took some hits. A claw caught her shoulder and drew blood. A backhand blow sent her stumbling. But she did not fall. She did not stop. 30 minutes passed. There was breathing harder now, not from exhaustion but from frustration. He had never had to work this hard to kill something so small. "Stand still and fight," he roared. Wiped blood from her lip. "I am fighting," she said. "I am fighting to survive. That is what humans do." 1 hour passed, was covered in cuts and bruises. Her left arm hung at a bad angle, probably broken. Blood dripped from a wound on her head, running down her face. She was in pain. Anyone could see it, but she kept moving. X finally managed to grab her. His massive hand closed around her body, lifting her off the ground. His claws pressed into her skin. He could crush her now. He could end this. He looked into her eyes and saw something that disturbed him. She was smiling. "What is wrong with you?" he demanded. "You are dying, you have lost. Why do you smile?" Coughed blood. "Because you expected this to be over in seconds. And here we are an hour later and I am still breathing. Every moment I survive is a moment you did not expect." She coughed again. "That means something." X stared at her. Then slowly he put her down. He did not release her gently. He dropped her and she fell hard on the arena floor, but he did not crush her. "The first test is concluded," the priest announced. His voice sounded uncertain. "The challenger has survived." The crowd did not know how to react. According to the rules, surviving was enough. Had not won the first test, but she had not lost either. She had endured. 2 medics came to examine X. He pushed them away. He was not injured. He was not tired, but something in his expression had changed. Human medics rushed too. They tried to take her to the medical bay. She refused. "Fix what you can hear," she said. "I am not leaving this arena until the trial is over." They set her broken arm. They bandaged her wounds. They gave her painkillers, but she refused most of them. "I need my mind clear," she said. 30 minutes later, the second test began. The needle of truth was a device created by the long ago. It connected to the nervous system and created pure pain without causing any real damage to the body. It was used to test warriors, to break prisoners, and to prove dominance over conquered species. 2 chairs were placed in the center of the arena. Each chair had metal bands for the arms and legs, and a small device that attached to the back of the neck. X sat in his chair without hesitation. The bands locked around his limbs. The device touched his scales. Walked to her chair slowly. Her body was still damaged from the first test. Every step hurt, but she sat down and allowed them to strap her in. The priest explained the rules. The device will activate and increase intensity every minute. The first one to surrender loses. The first one to lose consciousness loses. The first one to, he paused, looking at with something like concern, die loses. I understand, said. The devices activated. His body went rigid. Her hands gripped the arms of the chair so hard her knuckles turned white. Her teeth clenched together, but she did not scream. She did not beg. Instead, she began to speak. There was a soldier, she said, her voice tight with pain but clear. He was 19 years old. He was under my care during the colony wars. There was an accident with a reactor, radiation. By the time we found him, it was too late. The pain increased. His body shook. Sweat poured down her face, mixing with the blood from her wounds. He took 6 hours to die. We had no painkillers left, no sedatives, nothing to help him. All I could do was hold his hand and talk to him. All I could do was be there. 5 minutes passed, then 10. The crowd were watching with wide eyes. Most species lasted less than 2 minutes in the needle of truth. The record for none was 7 minutes. I watched his skin blister. I watched his hair fall out. I watched him cry for his mother, and I stayed. I held him. I told him stories. I sang songs from his homeland. I did everything I could to make his death less lonely. 15 minutes, 20. The device operators looked at each other with confusion. They had never seen anything like this. The human should have been unconscious by now. She should have been dead. He died in my arms at sunset, and I kept working because there were other patients, other soldiers, other people who needed me. I did not have time to grieve. I did not have time to break. Turned her head slightly to look at X. Tears were running down her face, but her voice was steady. That was the worst day of my life, and I survived it. She almost laughed through the pain. This is nothing. 30 minutes passed. The priest called for the test to end. Enough, he said. His voice was shaking. The test is concluded. The human has. He did not finish. He did not need to. Everyone could see. Had matched X minute for minute. And she had done it while telling a story about holding a dying boy in her arms. The bands released, slumped in her chair. Medical officers rushed forward, but she waved them away. She looked at X. The leader was staring at her. He had experienced the same pain she had. He knew exactly what she had endured, and he had seen her turn that pain into words, into memory, into something almost beautiful. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Stood up on shaking legs. Her body was broken. Her mind should have been destroyed by the pain, but her eyes were clear. "I am a human," she said. "This is what we are. This is what we do. We hurt and we keep going. We break and we put ourselves back together. We lose everything and we find reasons to continue." She took a breath. "You wanted to know what makes us strong. That is the answer. We are not strong because we do not feel pain. We are strong because we feel all of it and survive anyway." The arena was silent. Nobody knew what to say. Finally, the priest stepped forward. "The third test will begin in 1 hour. Both challengers should prepare." X stood and walked away without speaking. For the first time anyone could remember, the galaxy's mightiest predator looked uncertain. Sat back down in her chair and closed her eyes. She had survived 2 tests. One remained, and it would be the hardest of all. The third test was the one that killed most challengers. The mind pool was an ancient technology. Nobody knew exactly how it worked. Some said it read brain patterns. Some said it touched the soul itself. What everyone knew was that it created a perfect simulation of your deepest fear, and it put you inside that simulation until you broke. The rules were simple. Enter the mind pool, face your fear, maintain your purpose. The one who stayed longest without losing themselves won. Many warriors had entered the mind pool confident. They came out screaming, broken, unable to speak for days. Some never recovered. Some killed themselves rather than live with what they had seen. Listened to the rules and said nothing. Her body had been treated again during the hour break. The doctors had begged her to stop. Her injuries were serious. The pain alone should have ended her, but she refused. One more test, she said, then it is over. The mind pool itself was a large circular platform with a metal ring around it. When activated, the ring created a field that only the person inside could see. To outside observers, the challenger would simply stand there with their eyes open, seeing something invisible. X went first. He stepped onto the platform without hesitation. The ring activated and his eyes went distant. His body remained standing, but his mind was somewhere else. The crowd watched screens that showed his vital signs. Heart rate elevated, stress hormones increasing. Whatever he was seeing, it was affecting him. 10 minutes passed, 20, 30. Then X blinked and stepped off the platform. His scales had turned a slightly lighter color, a sign of stress among his species. His hands were shaking slightly, but he was intact. "What did you see?" the priest asked. X's voice was rough. "I saw my people fallen, I saw my legacy destroyed, I saw myself." He paused, struggling with the words, weak, prey, hunted instead of hunting. He walked to the edge of the arena and stood there, arms crossed, watching. He had faced his fear. He had survived. Now it was the human's turn. Stepped onto the platform. The ring activated. In the stands, humans leaned forward, watching the external monitors. They expected to see something dramatic, a war zone, a disaster, monsters, something that matched the terrible trials she had already faced. Instead, the monitors showed a room. It was a small room, clean, white walls, medical equipment that looked human, a bed in the center with a small shape under white sheets, a child. Stood next to the bed. In her hands were papers, medical charts. Her face was calm but sad. In front of her stood two people, a man and a woman holding each other. Parents. The crowd did not understand. Where was the fear? Where was the monster? This looked like an ordinary day in a hospital. Then began to speak. "I am sorry," she said to the parents who existed only in her mind. "We did everything we could. The cancer spread too fast. There is nothing more we can do." The parents in the simulation began to cry. The mother fell to her knees. The father screamed questions that had no good answers. Why? How? What did we do wrong? Stood there and took it all. The simulation changed. Same room, different parents, different child, same conversation. "I am sorry. The infection reached her brain. She will not wake up." Again and again and again. The monitors showed vital signs. Her heart rate was elevated but steady. Stress hormones were high but controlled. She was not fighting. She was not trying to escape. She was accepting. Outside the mind pool, aliens watched with growing confusion. An ambassador turned to a human nearby. "I do not understand. What is her fear? Sick children, that is not terrifying." The human the young diplomat named was crying. "You do not understand," he said. "She is not seeing a fear. She is seeing her life, her actual life. Every child she could not save, every family she had to destroy with words, every failure." The four eyes blinked. "But that is the past, that already happened. How can that be a fear?" "Because she has to live with it," said. "Every single day, every face, every name, they never leave her, they never will." 1 hour passed. Stood in the mind pool, speaking to parents who were not there, apologizing for deaths she could not prevent, absorbing grief that was not her own. They were watching with an expression nobody could read. This was not what they expected. Their fears were about losing power, losing status, becoming weak. The human's fear was about failing to save others. Finally, blinked and stepped off the platform. She looked exhausted. Her face was wet with tears, but her eyes were clear and her voice was steady when she spoke. "That is what I fear," she said to the silent crowd. "Not death, not pain, failure, letting someone down when they needed me most, living with the knowledge that I could not save them all." X walked toward her. His footsteps echoed in the quiet arena. He stopped in front of her and looked down at this small, broken, impossible creature. "I faced the fear of becoming prey," he said slowly. "You faced the reality of watching others die while you survived. These are not the same thing." "No," agreed, "they are not. I feared what might happen. You live with what already happened." "Yes." X was silent for a long moment. The entire station was silent, waiting. "How?" he finally asked. The word came out almost as a whisper. "How do you continue? I saw my fear for 30 minutes and nearly broke. You live with yours every day. How?" Looked up at him. This massive predator, this killer of hundreds, was asking her a genuine question. For the first time, he was not threatening. He was trying to understand. "Because giving up would mean their deaths meant nothing," she said. "Every child I lost, every soldier, every patient. If I stop, if I break, then their suffering becomes pointless. But if I keep going, if I use what I learned from losing them to save others, then some meaning survives." She paused. "That is how humans work. We do not forget our failures. We carry them, and we use them to become better." X stared at her for a long time. Then he did something that no one in the galaxy had ever seen him do. He looked away first. "The trial is complete," the priest announced, his voice uncertain. "Both challengers have survived all 3 tests. By the ancient rules, when neither falls, victory goes to—" He checked the old texts. "The challenger, the one who invoked the trial." The arena erupted into noise, had won. Technically, legally, officially, she had won. They would have to withdraw. The tribute species were safe. But held up her hand, and slowly the noise died down. "I did not do this to win a technicality," she said. She turned to face X directly. "I did this to show you something, and I do not think you have seen it yet." X's eyes narrowed. "What more is there to show?" Smiled sadly. "Everything. Let me tell you what strength really means." The arena fell completely silent as began to speak. Her body was broken from the trials. Blood still seeped through some of her bandages. She looked like she might collapse at any moment, but her voice carried across the massive space with perfect clarity. "You asked me how I continue," she said to X. "Let me give you a better answer. Let me tell you what humans really are." She took a slow breath. "You look at us and see weakness. No claws, no fangs, no armor. Compared to you, we are soft and small and fragile. By your standards, we should never have survived at all." X nodded slowly. This was obviously true. "But we did survive," continued. "We survived ice ages that killed larger creatures. We survived predators that were faster and stronger than us. We survived diseases, famines, wars, and disasters of every kind. And do you know how?" "Tell me," X said. His voice was quiet, genuinely curious. "We are persistence predators. Long ago on our home world, we hunted by following our prey until it collapsed. We could not catch them in a sprint. We could not overpower them, but we could follow them for days without stopping. We could chase them until they simply gave up, until they had nothing left." Gestured at herself, at her damaged body. "This is what you are facing, not strength, endurance. I did not survive your tests because I am powerful. I survived because I am too stubborn to stop." She began walking slowly around the arena, still talking. The crowd watched her move. "But that is only part of it. The other part is why we endure. You fight for dominance. You fight for yourself, for your legacy, for your place in history. Humans fight for each other. She stopped and pointed at the crowd. You see these other species you wanted to enslave. I do not know most of them. I have never met them. Some of them probably do not even like humans, but I fought for them anyway. I put my life and the future of my entire species on the line for strangers. Why? X asked. That makes no sense. You risked everything for beings who mean nothing to you. Because that is what we do, said simply. Humans run into burning buildings to save strangers. We give blood to people we will never meet. We throw ourselves on explosives to protect others. We die so that people we do not know can live. She turned to face X directly. You wanted to know what strength really is. It is not claws or muscles or the ability to kill. True strength is sacrifice. It is caring about something more than yourself. It is choosing to protect instead of destroy. The leader was silent. His yellow eyes were fixed on her with an intensity that would have terrified most beings, but did not look away. Here is the thing you need to understand about humans, she said. You can hurt us. You can kill us. You can destroy our bodies in 1,000 ways, but you cannot break us by threatening us. We are already broken. We live with loss and failure and death every single day. We carry our wounds inside us and we keep moving anyway. She took a step closer to him. The only way to break a human is to take away what we are fighting for, and we are always fighting for each other, which means the only way to truly defeat humanity would be to destroy every single one of us. And even then, the last human standing would be fighting to protect something. Reached into her pocket and pulled out the old photograph, the young soldier. This boy died in my arms 20 years ago. I could not save him. That failure broke something inside me that will never heal. She looked at the photograph with gentle eyes. But it also taught me something. It taught me that what we do for others matters more than what we do for ourselves. Died scared and in pain, but he did not die alone. I was there, and that meant something. She put the photograph away and looked at X. You have killed hundreds of beings. You have conquered worlds. You have built a legacy of fear and power that stretches across the galaxy. But when you die, what will remain? Who will remember you with love? Who will carry your memory as something precious instead of something terrible? X opened his mouth to respond, then closed it. For perhaps the first time in his life, he had no answer. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy, said. We are not the fastest or the toughest or the most dangerous, but we are the ones who will stand up when no one else will. We are the ones who will fight for strangers. We are the ones who will sacrifice everything for each other. She spread her arms, showing her damaged body, her bandages, her blood. This is what humanity looks like. Beaten but not broken, wounded but not defeated, small and soft and fragile but absolutely refusing to give up. And I promise you this, X the Unbroken. If you threaten these species again, if you try to take slaves from this conquered, every human in the galaxy will stand against you. Not because we are powerful, because it is the right thing to do. She let her arms fall. That is what true strength looks like, not the ability to destroy, the willingness to protect. The arena was completely silent. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species were watching. Many of them were crying. Some did not even know why. X stood motionless for a long time. His expression was impossible to read. The other behind him were watching their leader with confusion and something that might have been fear. Then slowly, the galaxy's mightiest predator did something that no one had ever seen before. He knelt. His massive body lowered until one knee touched the ground. His 4 arms hung at his sides. His head bowed forward. The position was ancient among his people, a gesture of respect reserved for only the most worthy opponents. I have fought my entire life, X said quietly. I have killed more beings than I can count. I have never met anyone I could not defeat. He raised his head and looked at, until today, not because you are stronger than me, because you are something I do not have the ability to be. He stood slowly. The withdraw our demands. We will not take tribute from the conquered. We will not threaten these species." He paused. "Instead, we wish to propose an alliance with humanity." Gasps echoed through the arena. They did not make alliances. They conquered or they ignored. They did not ask for friendship. "Why?" asked, genuinely surprised. "Because I have finally found something worth respecting," X said. "Not power, not fear, purpose, sacrifice, the willingness to burn for others." He looked around the arena. "My people have conquered 1,000 worlds, but we have never found meaning. We have never found something worth fighting for beyond ourselves. Perhaps humanity can teach us." Stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled, a real smile, tired but warm. "Perhaps we can," she said, "but it will take time and trust, and the understanding that strength is not about winning, it is about who you fight for and why." X nodded once. "Then we have much to learn." Swayed suddenly, her body finally giving out after everything she had endured. Human medics rushed forward and caught her before she fell. As they carried her toward the medical bay, she looked back at the arena, at the crowd of aliens watching with new eyes, at the massive predator who had just knelt to a retired field medic. Later that night, after her wounds were properly treated, sat alone in her room. She pulled out the photograph of and looked at it for a long time. "I could not save you," she whispered, "but maybe I saved some others today. Maybe your death helped me understand what matters enough to make a difference." She placed the photograph on her desk and finally allowed herself to weep, not from sadness, from exhaustion, from relief, from the weight of carrying so many ghosts for so long. Outside her window, the stars burned in the darkness, and across the galaxy, a new saying began to spread among species who had once the soft, clawless humans. "Pray you never give a human something worth dying for, because that is when they become something worth fearing." They left the station the next day. They did not leave as conquerors. They left as the first species in history to recognize something greater than power. An retired field medic returned to her work. There were still patients to heal, still lives to save, still failures to carry and lessons to learn. Because that is what humans do. They endure, they protect, they carry their broken pieces and keep moving forward. Always forward.